Hi, it's Nicole. Welcome to Aurelian Coaching Weekly. This week, I am talking about keeping a career journal. And what I do in my job, the reason I created Aurelian Coaching is because I was really interested in helping people move from managing their careers by default to proactively crafting their careers over time. And what I don't want to happen to people is you kind of wake up one day and realize you don't want to do this work anymore. You want to do something else, or you're burnt out and overwhelmed and you need out, or you come to work, come to the news that the company was acquired and maybe you're being laid off, or a good situation turns into a bad situation where maybe there's new leadership and it's just not working out. In any of those situations, what I don't want to happen is that you have no idea what to do. You don't know what your next step is. You have no idea where you want to go from here, because up until that point, you've been working, right? So head down, you've got calls and meetings and emails and all that kind of stuff, travel, whatever it is. But you haven't been thinking about your career more holistically over time, and you haven't been managing it more proactively. And so I'm trying to get people to make that shift. And one way to do it is by keeping a career journal. Now, some of you may already journal. I do have a journal. But even if you haven't historically kept a journal, there are lots of ways to do this that aren't burdensome. What I don't want to happen is to have people go, oh my gosh, I can't keep a career journal. It's another thing for me to do, and it sounds like it takes a lot of time. It doesn't actually have to at all. So there are many different ways of keeping a career journal, and the reason you want to do this is you want to spend a couple minutes every week kind of thinking about what inspires you, what really interests you, and what gets you excited, what you don't like. What is it like to be living your best life career-wise? Jot down some ideas, right? Kind of a week in review. What went really well? What didn't go well? What might you handle differently next time? What do you really like about leadership? What didn't sit well with you? All of these types of things are things that you can think about as you go. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to make big decisions about those things, but it means that you're collecting that thought process and you're documenting it so that over time, when it becomes relevant and when you do have to make decisions, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting from square one. You've already spent some time thinking about this stuff, and it's going to serve you very, very well. So if you want to start a career journal habit, there are two things that I want you to keep in mind. One is that there are lots of different ways to do this. So you can keep the traditional journal and write things out in paragraph form, that's fine. But the other thing is you can just do a voice recording, right? So download an app on your phone, voice transcription, record a couple of thoughts. Great. A lot of people use other types of apps like Evernote. Like you're probably using Evernote or other note-taking apps for lots of other things. Okay, create a new notebook that is your career journal, and that's where you'll be keeping this information. So some people actually do. I have one client who decided to do a Pinterest board. And it's just because she was on Pinterest all the time anyway. And so she just created a new board. And so she collects a lot of inspirational quotes, or kind of collects information that she sees that kind of gives her a kernel of something that she can think about a little bit more, either at a later date or, can prompt some discussion with her spouse or something like that, right? So there are lots of different ways to do this. So that was point number one. It doesn't have to be this sort of traditional journal that is a notebook and a pen, and then you write and write and write, although it could be lots of different ways to do it, right? The second thing that I want you to think about is if you want to do this, and it's a new habit for you, so you haven't done a journal exercise either in a long time or ever, the one thing that I would advise is that you tack it onto an existing habit, right? So instead of creating this pressure to integrate a new habit into your routine, that's really stressful sometimes, especially because you may do it for a couple days or a couple weeks and then it kind of falls off, and that's not the point. We want to keep doing this over time. So one thing you want to do is tack it onto something that you are already doing. So if you decide that you want to record your thoughts through a voice transcription app, when can you do that? You can do it while you're sitting in the car in your commute, or you can do it when you go to the gym or you're at home on your exercise bike or something like that, right? So there's already something that you're doing where you can spend, a minute and a half just kind of musing about your career strategy and career management issues. Another thing that you can do is if you do like to write things down, maybe you read before bed, right? If you read before bed, keep your career journal next to the bedside, next to your book or your Kindle or whatever you use. And just jot down a couple notes before heading to bed. So there are lots of ways to integrate this practice. And what it does is a couple of things. One is it helps to organize your thoughts. So it's really interesting for the people that I've coached over time, there's a disconnect between what they believe they have sorted out in their head, and what they actually have that is useful and actionable. So you may be thinking about this stuff and it may be swirling around in your head, but until you get it out of your head, it's not actually useful. Sometimes when I prompt people, so tell me about it, everything that seemed so organized in their head actually can't be articulated very well. And so keeping a journal, a career journal, may actually get you into the practice of organizing your thoughts, getting it out on paper, articulating things in a more useful way. So this is what I recommend. You don't want to have to find yourself flat-footed and then trying to make all these decisions about your career and not having thought about it for a really long time. Instead, what you want is to be thinking about it as you go. And a career journal is a beautiful way of doing that. So find a way that you can journal that works for you, and then tack it onto activities that you already have so that you can maintain that habit over time. And one client that I recommended that she started doing this, it actually came up in one of our coaching sessions because I mentioned something that triggered her. She said, I had that thought 6-8 months ago and I lost it. I don't I thought about it, but I didn't write it down. I just completely lost it. And having some place to record these thoughts and these brainstorms, these ideas, these considerations is a wonderful way to not lose something that could be really useful for you later on. So that's my guidance. Keep a career journal. Go to aureliancoaching.com. It's this week's blog post. So I actually give you 10 journal prompts, 10 really provocative questions for you to think about how to manage your career more proactively going forward. This is not like simple stuff like, oh, what do you think your next step is in your career? Boring. I ask really thought-provoking questions. So go to aureliancoaching.com. You can sign up for my email list. If you are on my list, then on Friday, you'll get the email from me that will have a PIP sheet, a put into practice sheet, that will actually walk you through this exercise and help you put it into practice. If you aren't already on the email list, get on the email list. It's free and you get really cool stuff every week. Go to aureliancoaching.com/email and sign up. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.